get ready because everything is about to change. There's a new way of living life and doing business that will blow your mind. This is a podcast all about the timing of life and the timing of success. It's what we call the Right on Time life. And you are listening to the Right on Time podcast with Amber McHugh. Today's guest is Sarah Noked, founder of the Sarah Noked OBM. Sarah works out of her home office in Israel. Amazing. She's living the dream and working from anywhere, helping business owners and online service professionals plan and implement the right systems to achieve their goals. Sarah shares her passion for online business management through her Confident OBM programs and online communities, where she empowers and educates VAs and OBMs worldwide to transition into the online service industry confidently, effectively, and successfully. Sarah, so excited you're here. Today's episode is brought to you by Sarah Noked and the Online Business Management School. No thriving business got to where it's at without solid systems in place. They're the key to scaling up, generating more revenue, and having the freedom you deserve as a business owner. Start systematizing your business today by checking out the OBM School's free resource at obmschool.com/SOP. Sarah, it's so great to be here on the podcast with you. Thanks for hopping on.
It's always a pleasure I always love catching up with you. So it's just honestly such a pleasure.
Same. And we were just reflecting on, right before we started recording, we were talking about where we're located. You run your business from basically wherever.
Israel.
But
yeah,
Israel.
Yeah. I mean, mostly Israel, but yeah, I mean, my family's back in Canada. I mean, COVID has thrown a wrench into my plan, but I actually was just in Canada not too long ago, about a month ago, and it was a bloody nightmare getting back and getting there with all the quarantining and all that fun stuff. But I needed to go because I had a family emergency.
Yeah.
So luckily I'm back and in action, but it was pretty rough. It was rough leaving my husband with 3 kids for 3 weeks. Yeah, I mean, he's a superstar, legit, because I wouldn't have taken the transatlantic journey if he wasn't all that and a bag. But still, 3 weeks. So I was like really in minus with him. I was like, oh, I owe you big time. And I don't like that feeling. I don't like that feeling. He went to Greece. Then he went to Greece for 9 days by himself. So I was like, we're even now. Now we're even.
What? You were so even. Oh my God.
We're so even now. Yeah.
That's hilarious. I bet your karma bank was already pretty full though, on just like what you do every day in life.
With 3 kids, a full-time business. I know you guys can relate. This is not an easy thing we do.
It is not an easy thing we do. And it's funny, Sarah, when I started my business, I had just one daughter, Lily, and she was easy. Like I was spoiled. And I was like, oh, it's easy to run a business with kids. And then I had my second daughter.
Yeah.
She was not easy. So I got a whole new okay. So when people ask me, how do you run a business with children? What do I need to be thinking about? Or when people are in that phase where it's like no sleep, I don't know what my schedule is.
What's my name again?
Exactly. What's my name? Where are we?
What do these children, what does everyone want from me? Oh my God, totally. Like, so yeah, I can absolutely relate to that. Because I remember also Ella, my first, was also easy peasy. I was like, I mean, she didn't crawl until not crawl, but like walk until she was over, I think 1 year and 3 months. I was like, this is great. She barely crawled until she was like 1 year old. I was like, how fabulous. Then I've got 2 boys after that who are like terrorizing my house.
I hear this about boys. I have all girls. I'm like, oh, sorry. Thank you.
It's not easy.
Oh, that's amazing. And it's interesting because we hadn't even planned to talk about this element of children in our businesses and in our lives. But for some people, it's children. For other people, it's running their businesses as a side hustle. There's so many elements of things that happen and come up in life, children being just one of those things. Chronic illness is another thing I've dealt with. So whatever we are doing in our business, one of the things, and this is your specialty, that helps us get through all of this with sanity, with a little bit more ease,
With
without
poise,
poise,
gracefulness.
maybe. That's like the goal. Okay.
Yeah,
And it is having number one, and you focus in these two areas. Either number one, getting some help and some support for yourself
please.
through an
And
OBM.
that can be also having somebody come and help
Yeah.
you around the house. I'm all for that. That's like,
I,
to my peeps out there, that's like one of the first things you want to delegate. Because when it comes to a business, delegating things in your business, I think because I know you can relate to this, our
yeah.
business is our baby,
Yeah.
and it's sometimes hard to get into the delegation mindset. So you might not want to delegate pieces of your business, but at least if you can delegate the day to day, that will make time to
Yeah.
do some of the things in your business for the short term, at least.
Yes. It's so true. What was the first thing you shared, delegated, outsourced when you were starting your business?
I mean, definitely somebody to help me around the house. That was
Yeah.
like the first thing. And then the second thing was a writer
Oh,
because
wow.
I was looking for someone to sort of support me because, content strategy is one of my big things of how I got my OBM clients, of how I was able to position myself as an influencer.
Yep.
So, and, even though I'm a humanities undergrad and I've written quite a few essays in my day, I was like, no more of that. No more of that. I know my zone of genius and it's not writing. So I hired a very detail oriented writer who went on to become my lead OBM. And that's
Wow.
always something that I look for in all my team members is like, can you write? And are you a good communicator? That's my and are you detail oriented?
This is fascinating because when we talk to our clients about hiring, we look for obviously what are those things that we're not good at that we want are complementary. So I use that phrase, how to clone yourself, but
Yes.
really we don't need another you. Like you're good at doing what you're
Yeah.
good at.
Yeah.
You need
Yeah. We
someone.
need like someone who we need like the yin to the yang clone. I
Exactly.
need my yang clone.
Yeah, but you hired someone to support things you're good at, but you
Right.
also look for the communication skills. Why is that?
Because I'm big on communication as a brand, as an OBM, who is anticipating that my team will communicate with my clients. It's just
Yeah.
an important thing. I think it's just something that is like, because I've worked on plenty of team in my day. I find that if your communication sucks, then there's just a lot of, it's even just about having an open dialogue. Like, are you going to come and bring something to my attention if you're struggling with something? Or
Mhm.
are you confident to ask those questions that might make you look stupid? Like that's what I look for when I think about communication. Like, how good are you at just being available? So I'm really big on that because again, I expect my team to communicate with my clients.
Yeah.
So
Do you think that when one thought that comes to mind is in our virtual environments, communication is so important. And
key.
yeah. And then do you think that communication um, serves us in those relationships? Like as we're building teams, it's hard. Like I don't find the right person.
It's so
Okay.
hard.
They're not showing up. Okay. This isn't what I wanted. And
Right.
when you have strong communication, you can overcome those barriers.
Agreed. Agreed. I do think that that is a big piece of overcoming. And like the truth of the matter is, and I was actually just talking to my OBM coaching group about this because they're all wanting to hire VAs to support them with their client work. And one in particular was like, well, I hired this one, not so happy. Maybe I'm going to hire another one. I'm like, look, first of all, you have to kiss a few frogs
Yeah.
before you really find team members that you jive with. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, but that's sort of the rite of passage. And then, yes, communication, because as you were saying, like our virtual space, the virtual office, there's so much and again, I've had people go, am I like missing in action on me a few times in my
Yeah.
day, in my time, in my day in the digital space. I've had some people like totally ghost me.
Okay.
um
So this is great because when you have that ghosting situation, which I have
it
also
happens.
had, one of my biggest advice to people, and actually across the board on hiring, is what did I do wrong? I shouldn't manage it this way. Should I do this? Should I do that? To me, there's a big release of guilt. There's a big release of, and to separate from, oh my gosh, what's going wrong here? I'm like, well, let's look at that from the perspective of how do we hire going forward? Like
Right.
my brand of crazy, like I've got some quirks that happen and my family knows
We
what
are
they
all,
are.
well, I mean, we're visionaries, right?
Yeah. And then when things happen, like, okay, maybe it's my fault, but I don't need to be so hard on myself.
Right.
It just is. And we're going to make
Yeah.
note of this for going forward.
Yeah. And I think that really comes back to that notion that like business is this personal growth journey that we are all on. And when you step into this space, you have to realize that it's just such a personal growth experience that for better or for worse, you're going to feel great some days. And again, it's like that meme that we all know with the ups and downs. I'm on my high, I'm on my low, I'm on my high, I'm on my low. I'm amazing. I suck. I'm amazing. What's wrong with me? How
Yeah.
come I can't retain team members? But you know what? The thing that I have found over the years with working with OBM clients is that a lot of the tumultuous relationships and the sort of miscommunications really start from broken systems in their
Mm-hmm.
business. And when I'm talking to a client and they're like, oh, my VA ghosted me, or, she was happy on the team for 5 hot minutes and then she was like gone. It's usually because they just, people come on, or even an OBM comes on the team and they're like, well, I just don't know where to start because there's
Yeah.
nothing documented. There's no systems. I don't know who does what.
I have goosebumps galore because I definitely agree on the prioritization of the systems. And I want to go
Mhm.
there next because we want to dive into the top 3 systems that you need to have in place prior to scaling. They're going to set you up to skyrocket the frick out of your business.
Yeah, the frick. That's a good one. Out of your business.
Before we dive into that, I want to ask, how do you define scaling? Because then that's going to be our bridge to, or then these are the systems you need.
Oh, I'm not, I guess I think about this all the time, but I've never been asked that direct question. I think when it comes to scaling, it is about the entrepreneur focusing on what they're good at more so, and being able to delegate. So to me, a scaled business is when the visionary CEO is focused on the things that only they can do in their business, and everything else is delegated.
Yeah.
Everything else is streamlined, and you're able to build on that. So the solid foundation, team members in the right places, management intact, software intact, and then able to build on to that. That to me is a successfully scaled business.
I love it. Again, goosebumps. And a follow-up question to this is, this is the ideal, right? Even as I think about my corporate career, like we want all of these things to be working optimally, the tech, the team, the operation.
Right.
Where do you find that most people, if you were to say like 0 to 100%, most of your clients, most of the clients of your OBM clients, if you were to just ballpark this, I know you didn't come with data, but if you were to ballpark it, what percentage of the way do you think that your most successful clients and the most successful business owners, do they get it to 100? Do they stay right at that 80% zone?
Yeah, I would say like immediately I was like 75% because I do feel like there is this, there's obviously as human beings, there's money mindset issues. And I think when it comes to hiring, people really fall short in the hiring department, either because they are, too focused on hiring in a reactionary mode. Like I needed that person on my team a year ago, so I'm hiring for that role instead of who I need to hire for, first off. And also that they're not like, I find a lot of the times clients don't really recognize the importance of having like a manager in place to like manage like whole parts of systems in their business. So they'll be like cheap, it's like we had the beep, now we're having the cheap. They're too cheap when it comes to investing in their team. And to me, I'm like, I mean, don't know where I would be without my OBM on my team. But I find a lot of the times, and she's a full-time employee for me right now. I mean, obviously didn't start like that, but I find that people have a lot of money mindset and, almost like, am I deserving of this team member? Or am I deserving to have a successfully scaled business that is supported by the right people in the right seats? Maybe some are contractors, some are employees, but I'm actually prioritizing my strategy around team growth. And I think
Yeah.
that's where people really lose their, because they just feel that, they need to have, I don't know, certain softwares or, they need to be hiring that coach or taking that trip or whatever. And they're not really focused on what's going to successfully scale their business.
I am wondering if you're listening to this and you just felt called out. Like
Yeah.
you just said, Sarah, like, oh,
I'm
I'm
calling you out. Yes.
I'm like, there was a point in my career where absolutely you said something key. Are you prioritizing building your team?
Right.
Or are you prioritizing, I need this coach? I look at coaches can be part of your team also.
Of course.
Coaches, mentors,
of course.
going on that trip, going on that.
Yeah, I don't mean that because I do
Yeah.
really value coaching, but I just feel like it's more of this bright shine. It's more of like a lack of strategy. That's what it is. It's sort of like, kind of like in the barrel, kind of shooting what we can, but not really having like, it's one thing if you're like, okay, I've got my team growth strategy on lockdown and moving forward. I've hired a coach to help me and hold me accountable and keep me, in line with my strategy.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes.
But I don't think that happens. And again, I'm not saying that I've scaled my business in the most perfect way. Like I've definitely, I relished in my solopreneur hat for far too long as a solopreneur. Like I was like, I can do everything. I don't need anybody. Look at me. I've got like tens of thousands of, I'm joking, but it got to a point where I was like, I was proud of myself for being the solopreneur. And then I got pregnant. And that was when it really became critical for me to hire team. Yes. So again, I was like in a position where I was like, okay, well, now I don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice. And so many, like, I'm done having babies. There will be no more pregnancy.
No more.
So I'm not going to have that moment.
Yeah, I feel you. But still, I still want to take a holiday. So now that I've had that experience, like holiday, I want to go on a caravan trip with my family. And also, again, I think being honest with ourselves. I mean, if you are a solopreneur listening today, you might be thinking to yourself, wow, I'm so great at all of these things. And the reality is that you are great at a lot of things and you are able to put yourself out there. And to me, that's incredible. And that deserves a lot of merit and kind of that pat on the back. But also facing the fact that there might be things that you aren't, that aren't in your zone of genius, that really you don't need to be doing on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. Those are the things that you should delegate first.
Yeah. This is amazing. It's interesting too, because I'm sitting here reflecting on, all right, no more babies. Yes. Still want those vacations. Still want those road trips. How do I create space for that? And it becomes easier to identify, like, this is not in my zone of genius. Oh, there's someone else who can do this expertly. I'm going to engage them. And I catch it a lot faster now, but it's a practice.
Yes. I think it's just so easy to default to well, I'll just take care of this, and like, because we can. And again, I always say like, online business is amazing, but it's not brain surgery. Everything can be figured out with a YouTube tutorial. Like, I mean, I don't mean to downplay everything. Obviously, if you're setting up a complicated funnel and you need, a consultant, okay. But like more than not, you can figure things out. And I feel like that is such a slippery slope for a lot of us, especially people coming from the VA and the OBM world. This is why I literally see OBMs with their hands tied behind their back, because they're like, but I can do this. But I'm like, but should you be doing it? Like, is that going to get you to your scaled business?
Okay.
For?
So this is great transition to the first system you need to have in place prior to scaling.
Yes. Oh man. So the first system, drum roll please, is it's like the funniest system ever. It is your SOP for creating SOPs system. So I know you're big on systems too, but like I am all about delegating the ability to create. So if you are an entrepreneur that is sitting listening right now thinking, I need team members, tell me what I need to do to get this in place. You need to start thinking about the things that are recurring in your business. And if you can, sit with a piece of paper next to your desk for 2 weeks or a month, or even just an afternoon with a glass of wine and literally write down, here are the things I do recurring weekly, daily, monthly, yearly. It starts to paint this picture of the things that you can delegate. Then I literally want you to circle 5 of those beauties and be like, okay, now I'm going to download Sarah's SOP template. And because that's a free beauty that we give you guys over at sarahnokedcom/SOP. And you can start to create systems. So that having a system in place for building the systems in a way that speaks to where are these systems living? Who's responsible for updating the systems? How do they merge in the project management tool, right? Like all that good stuff. So that's the first big one, is really getting clear on how you're going to delegate the art of creating systems.
So to give this a little bit of a time constraint, because I find that people can go down the SOP path and spend a lot of time there.
Yes.
When there are also other priorities in our business that we don't want to forget about. So how long would you say something like this should take? Like identifying those things and designing that SOP for your SOP creation?
I feel like it can probably take, so when we come into a client's business to create SOPs for them, it can take anywhere to 6 months, realistically. Now, it's not like I want you to systematize your entire business. I want you to focus on those 3 or 4 tasks that can be delegated to a virtual assistant or somebody else on your team, another team member. So it's just about creating. So, I mean, with an SOP template, there's no reason why you can't bang those out. Like, I feel like creating a system for the first go is maybe 2 or 3 hours. So if you're spending like, let's say 10 hours creating these 3 systems, and now you can bring on a VA and you've just given yourself back 2 hours of time every week.
Yeah.
That's golden. And then you kind of move from there, like it's baby steps. But without that initial SOP for creating SOPs and and the system for creating your standard operating procedures and documenting your systems, it becomes very difficult to move on from there.
Yeah, this is amazing. Right? I love that you called out 2 to 3 hours. So if anyone dives into this and finds themselves spending a whole week, I've been working all week on my systems. Okay, did you get Sarah's SOP template? Start there and leverage that to reduce your time spent and check ourselves, because Parkinson's law, the work will expand to fill the amount of time we give ourselves to do it. So give yourself that 2 to 3 hour window for this, and then assess if you need more or less, but start with Sarah's guidance on this.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just imperative to have that first system in place, because the second big system that you're now setting up is, the thing that happens the most in your business. So if you're a coach, it might be your onboarding and offboarding experience that you have your clients go through. So thinking about, the some of the core things that you do in your business, again, daily, weekly, monthly, that maybe you are the one doing, and you can't foresee this ever being delegated. That's okay. Because I mean, I remember when I was an OBM, I was like, I'm never going to delegate doing my sales conversations. I'm the only one who can do my sales. And then I brought on Emily, and she was like way better at doing my sales conversations. Like, wow, I suck. But I think starting to create systems for ourselves as the entrepreneur around the things that we do recurring that are our responsibility. Because I mean, I'll talk to a coach who's looking for an OBM, and she'll be telling me how long it takes her to onboard and offboard clients, or how every time she does it, you're doing it in like a new way. So thinking about recurring things in your business, right? And starting to build out systems for like the bigger chunks that have to do with like the delivery of your products, right? Or the delivery of your services. Those are important systems to put in place. As a secondary thing. So like your delivery stuff, like because that's like the sweet spot of, I know as a service-based support provider, and I know a lot of your listeners are in this service-based support professional realm,
Mm-hmm.
our client experience has to be top notch. So when you can streamline that and then sort of plug things in to make it the best possible experience, then that's definitely a system that you want on lockdown. Because like, look, even as an OBM, it wasn't as if I was onboarding a new client every month, but it certainly was every 3 months, and every 3 months I'd be like, what did I do 2 months ago? Like legit. I have no idea what I did. And then here I am spending like 5 hours figuring out what I did. And then also the client is like losing faith in me because I haven't followed up in an appropriate amount of time and they've lost trust.
Yeah.
So that's the other really big thing.
Yeah. Having a solid experience that is defined, that you are guiding your client down,
Mm-hmm.
amplifies that trust. Such a great point. You said something else there. Oh, did I lose it? Dang it. I got interested in your next thought. I'm following along with everyone
You're so
who's
funny.
listening. Magic, gold, all over. This is awesome. Third system that we need to think about if we're going to scale.
Right. Yeah. So when it comes to the third system that you want to be setting up in your business, the third system usually has to do with things that are operational in your business. So all of your operation systems, things
Mhm.
like backing up your website. And these are also things that kind of fall in line with the first kind of can of like the SOP, standard operating procedure kind of system, and the SOP for creating. But like this goes down to things like, where are the websites being backed up, where, who's responsible for things like client care. So any kind of operational systems that you have in your business day to day.
Yeah.
So anything from client care to backing up things. I'm trying to think of other things that come in our operations, team meetings and stuff like that, even though you might not have a team on like right in, happening right now, but you want to be thinking in an ideal situation, what are operational things that happen day to day that I can start to systematize? Because things like client care, again, it might, or sales conversations might be those things where you're like, wow, I'm not ever going to be able to delegate those things. But when you start to map them out, then you start to see, oh, well, this part could be systematized or that part could be delegated. And so thinking about the operational day-to-day things in your business, those I often find too, that those are the things that many of my OBM clients will procrastinate about. So things like even bookkeeping falls into that realm. Like, and I'm at fault for this. For years, I mean, I used to have a landscaping company, probably a podcast for another time. My husband and I, we weren't married then, but my God, did we fight like we were. We weren't married then, but we had a landscaping company. And I just like, I don't even know. Like, I remember looking back at that and just fighting all the time with my husband, like it was never ever ending. But with the operations, I like used to default to bookkeeping. Like, why am I bookkeeping? I shouldn't be bookkeeping. I was a landscape designer. I was schmoozing clients. I was keeping track of the team, doing all this crazy stuff. Like in the man's world, yes, I was like cracking my whip on these guys. I was like, get to work. We've got some client work to do here. But I was still procrastinating with things around like my bookkeeping. So I find, especially with our OBM clients, I will get into the situation, OBM clients being like, people who should be delegating all the things in their business. And they're like, well, I really enjoy scheduling my email broadcast. I'm like, no, you don't. You just like doing that because it's mindless.
It's
Or
mindless.
because
Yes, it's
and
something to check off on the list.
it's
You get
something
that
to check off a
adrenaline
list. And
rush.
I get that. But those things that you're like, those are exactly the things that you can delegate to someone else if you just put a system around it. So, and I think those things a lot of them are like operational day-to-day things. And that's when you can bring in a VA. If you're making your first hire, bringing in somebody who can help to support and just knock off those day-to-day system things. So having those systems in place and actually thinking about what those systems need to look like.
Something occurred to me as you were talking about these second two steps in the process is these are things to do if you plan to grow this business long term.
Right.
And if you're like, no, I'm just going to do one-off client. Okay, then you can operate like this is your first and only client. But
Right.
if you're going for a second, If you're going
Right.
for a third, if this is a legitimate business that you want to grow and it's not just I'm helping a friend on this one project, set up these systems because
Amen.
it is save you. I
Yeah.
mean, all the things we talked about at the beginning, right? Is sanity, time. You're going to be able to scale, get
Right.
leverage.
Right. Get leverage and maybe be able to like, because even with my journey, in the online space, like it's been a decade already, but like I started off as a VA and then I moved into an OBM role and then I started training OBMs and it's evolved to, certification and other sorts of training programs. And I love my journey, but had I have been stayed embracing my solopreneur mindset, I definitely would not have accomplished the things I have accomplished. So I think, we have to really push ourselves outside of our comfort zone. And a lot of that has to do with like getting, playing real with our business and actually treating it like its own separate entity. Like Michael Gerber, to quote the E-Myth, because I feel like this is necessary right now. And I'm going to botch this to the high heavens, but
Paraphrase.
he talks a lot about systems and how when you are building a sustainable business, your business needs to be built on systems and not team. The team runs the systems, but the systems are there. So, I see this a lot with, clients who are onboarding and offboarding team members, like, or a team member falls ill or something happens, or the team member has a sick child and you need to swap somebody else in to kind of take on that role. If you've got systems in place, documented procedures, they're all nicely linked to your project management tool, you're going to be golden, because you're going to be like, okay, so Sally's sick. Okay, I can look at my project management tool and see all of Sally's tasks linked to the SOPs for her recurring tasks. Okay, I'm not going to like vomit. I'm okay.
Yes.
I
I'm
don't
gonna
need to drink
vomit.
my bottle of wine now. I'm going to hold off till later. Like
I
I
love it.
got this.
And having those things in place, like checking in on things, having a place to check in as a part of your systems without having to ask and wonder, moves you out of that micromanagement role, which I find so many people getting stuck in. I feel like I'm micromanaging. They haven't communicated back to me exactly where you started
Right.
at the beginning of this conversation, like building communication processes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And also like being like, hey, communication is a core part of our company culture. If you need like one of the first things I tell my team members is like, there are no stupid questions. And
Mm-hmm.
if anyone's asking stupid questions, it's me. you know, there's no such thing as a question. Like everything can be asked. And and also my other motto is no small babies were harmed. Like again, back to like the beginning of the conversation, like we are not brain surgeons. My brother's an anesthesiologist. So I look at him and I'm like, you go into work every day and you literally have people's lives on your hands. What I'm doing is, yes, I mean, definitely we are impacting people and doing amazing things in the online space, but, I'm not like, you know, helping people to that extent
Yeah.
or putting people's lives in danger to that extent.
Yeah. And it's also, as we think about, okay, we're running a business and it's not brain surgery. And our team members may be running their own businesses. They have things going on in their life. Remembering, like, oh, okay, we got this, whatever it
Yeah.
is, whether it's lack of communication or this isn't the right fit from a team perspective, or it's actually our systems that need to be fixed.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, we've got this,
We have
which
got this.
leads me to you offer support for business owners and OBMs, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, can you tell us about how you balance and what these two different business models that you're operating
Mhm.
are?
Yes. So my core is the training of OBMs, because what we've done on the other side of the agency. So I ran an agency for many years. I had full-time team members. I mean, that can be a podcast episode for a whole other time, because I think that agency growth, and you've also had an agency, right? At some
I
point
thought about it.
ish.
We
Right.
operate more of an agency model in our
Right.
photography business. Yeah.
Right.
But
I mean, it's not for the faint of heart.
yes, it's
And so I think one of the things I realized way back when was, yeah, I really want to support people who are especially entrepreneurs that are making an impact in this space, find the right team members. So what we started to do in our agency was we sort of started to evolve it more as an internship. So I would have my OBM students come into my agency and I would basically like match make them, but like support them for like a 3-month period, making sure that they melded well with the client. And then it'd be like, peace out. So we've been doing that for a while. And then I had my third child. He's going to be 3 years old. So for the last, I'd say 2 years, we've really focused more on training OBMs and building out a directory. So I do work with clients occasionally around systems and coaching. I find the right OBM for them because I just don't, it's just not something that is really in my zone of genius at this point anymore.
I love this,
To be
but you
honest.
are amplifying and multiplying the
Right. I'm
impact.
like, I don't want to, because even like as a full OBM, I can only serve 3, max 4 clients. And literally I think it was until about a year ago, I kept on my favorite client. She's this Australian girl that is still like my biz bestie. And she has this photography business. You probably actually know her. And she sells photography courses and has for many, many years. And has a phenomenal business that we built from, low 6 figures to 7 figures.
Oh, I
And
love it.
she's a phenomenal human being that I love deeply. And that's why I worked with her for all those years. But got to a point where I love being an OBM in my own business. Even though I have my OBM, I also like, sometimes I default to like getting in there dirty and, having the team meetings. I love all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like hard for me to like stay in my zone of genius, and also recognizing that like I've got 3 kids under 8, and I need to, be a mom, also be an entrepreneur, but I really want to serve, women and some men, because there are some men that step into my programs, really be able to offer services to clients in a way that is like aligned with themselves and really supports their own, desires for their business. So yeah. So, I mean, it's not an easy thing to balance. And I think that is why I had to sort of like take my pedal off the gas of the agency a few years ago, and sort of put it on more of like the trainings, because, the other thing that we started doing was we started bringing in, more OBM mentors into like, it's something, when you have coaching programs, as we can bring on the right people to effectively scale that. So when I do work with an OBM client, it's really because I desperately want to work with them, not for any other reason.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned something as well. When you were in that OBM role, you could only work with 2 or 2 to 3
3 or 4 max.
3 or 4. Okay, 3 or 4
Right.
max. So if I'm someone who's looking for an OBM and listening to this, what recommendations would you have about thinking about how many clients my OBM is going to have? Like if they've got 10 clients, should I
that
pause?
to me, that would be a concern, because a true OBM can only work with, because again, if I'm holding space for a client, I'm holding space around their vision, their goals, their team. I mean, think about your own business. Even if you're a solopreneur right now, like you have your own goals, then kind of multiply that by 3 or 4. Now I'm when I'm falling asleep at nighttime, I'm not just worrying about my business. I'm worrying about 4 other businesses, and thinking deeply and strategically and critically about how to, make decisions, because, part of what we do as a manager, as OBMs, is we are aware of the vision and aware of the goals, so we can make decisions on behalf of the client, and we can, create launch plans and do the strategic planning because we're aware of the strategy at large. But it's a lot of information to hold for more than 3 or 4 clients. So I think that if you had an OBM that was working with 10 or 15 clients, that typically happens when an OBM is transitioning from a VA role, because in the VA role, you can have 15 clients, no problem. Like I've been there, done that, got the goddamn, badge. Not fun, not fun. But I would say that, there's when you're working with a true OBM, you want somebody who can lead you in your business, and somebody who is, has all these other businesses on their mind is not going to be able to deliver the kind of service or be as involved in your business as you need. Like I mentioned, my OBM is a full-time employee. But of course, I've worked with many OBMs over the years who were contractors as I was scaling my business. So you reach a certain income point where you might be in the multi six figures, getting to seven figures, where you're ready to bring on like more of a concrete employee in that role,
Yeah.
because then you can have them all for yourself, you know?
And
It's a nice feeling.
there may likely come a point in your business as you're growing where you do need to transition from part-time partner in your
Right.
OBM to that full time. So if
Right.
you're at that point or you're wondering, again, this is a place to release guilt and to get support around it. So
Mhm.
Sarah, if people are thinking about, okay, I need an OBM, what guidance and where can they find you and reach out to you about that?
Yeah. So we have a directory over at obmschool.com. So they can definitely check out our directory of students
Mm-hmm.
of who have trained with me and who are, skilled online business managers. So they can definitely start there. They can absolutely email me or reach out to me on a DM on Instagram.
Love it.
They might have my team follow up, but
Yes.
we're definitely, one of the things that I have made a promise, and this is going to sound really lame and cheesy, but to me, it's really about paying it forward. I feel so lucky to, have had the support in my life to be where I am right now, because, I often say that, like, I think if I didn't find this online space, I definitely wouldn't be able to live where I live and have the kind of freedom and flexibility that I do. So I'm always very aware of the fact that I feel very gracious for where I am. And I also feel very inclined to pay it forward to other, especially women and mothers, not to discriminate basically, but especially to moms who are like, I'm like, I can show you the path to freedom. You don't have to, like, because I look back at my 9 to 5 when I was in corporate. I had just completed my MBA. And here I am working a job where I only get to leave at 6 p.m. How am I going to pick up my kids from school? I mean, then I didn't have kids. 3
Yeah.
kids later, so that didn't, like, I mean, I never went back after my mat leave because I needed to make this happen. But so I'm really all for paying it forward. So if you're thinking about, stepping out of your 9 to 5, or you're like, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm drowning in all the things, I'm all for that.
This is awesome. I love your heart.
Oh, thank you.
For anyone who's listening to this and it's like, oh, what's your Instagram handle? We'll put it in the show notes as well. But for the listener right now, what's your
It's just
Instagram?
at Sarah Noked. Sarah with
Awesome.
an H, Noked. So at Sarah Noked, they can find me there. Um, yeah.
So good. And then, absolutely, for anyone who's in a VA role, transitioning to OBM, or who wants to step into an OBM role, gotta go to the OBM school. Because, Sarah, you are so knowledgeable. You've been doing this for so long. You've seen all the things, I am sure. And I couldn't imagine a better mentor to have on my path. So, for
Oh,
anyone who's
thank
thinking
you.
about that, obmschool.com is the best place to
Yeah.
go. Okay,
Yes,
sweet.
absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
spending some
Amber.
time
It's always
with
a
me.
pleasure to check. Like, I feel like I haven't talked to you in a while, but like it still
I,
feels like yesterday.
I totally agree. It's such a blast. And, this is why we're going to be cranking up the interviews on the Right on Time podcast, because I'm like, was so excited to get on this call with you. I'm like, we're going to catch up. We're going to get some
Yes.
knowledge bombs dropped. And it did not disappoint.
Yeah, it was a pleasure always. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you. Love you. Talk soon. Hello. Hello. What an incredible conversation that was with Sarah. I just wrapped up with Sarah. We had a brief conversation, and I wanted to come back here and say to you, you are doing awesome. You are crushing it. And I know this building a business journey can have all of the ups and downs, as Sarah shared on our episode today. And I just want you to know that if you are in an up right now, I commend you. I congratulate you. And if you are in a down right now and you're on that uphill climb, I feel you. Been there. You are not alone. And if ever you need support, you heard Sarah say that she is paying it forward and she's got what you need to build the systems. She's got what you need to build and get the team support. And she's mentoring people on that journey as well. So you've got options. You've got support. You've got people around you who are cheering you on, including me. And I want you to know that you growing your business and you stepping into this next evolution of your life and of your journey, it's right on time. I'll see you in the next episode.